Millionaire accidentally receives urgent message from desperate mother uncovers incredible love. Jason Reed sat in the glass-walled conference room, the bustling city of New York sprawling out beyond him, a testament to the dreams he had turned into reality. At 37, he had everything. A corner office, a hefty bank account, and respect among his peers at one of the nation's top law firms. But even amidst the excitement of a multi-million-dollar deal, his heart felt strangely heavy, as though it were a lead weight in a pool of shimmering success. He was a self-made millionaire, yet the elation seemed hollow, echoing with the laughter and warmth of family memories that had begun to fade. A buzz from his phone shattered the moment. An accidental voicemail. He rolled his eyes, always someone needing something. Curiosity piqued. He tapped play. A frantic voice erupted through the speaker, belonging to a woman named Linda. "Please, if anyone hears this, I don't know who to turn to. My son, Marcus, he's innocent. They're trying to frame him. I need help." Jason's heart raced at the passion in her voice. He could almost feel the tremor of her desperation echoing in his chest. Memories of his own mother flooded his mind, the sacrifices she'd made, the late nights spent worrying, the way her eyes would shine with hope despite their struggles. Struggling between the yearning for familial connection and the cold efficiency expected of him, Jason found himself paralyzed. What difference could he possibly make? His comfortable life felt like a prismatic lie, illuminating the void left by the absence of his family, a void he had cultivated with calculated decisions. But now, listening to Linda's plea, he felt the walls of his reality shake. As he sat there, his colleagues jabbering about the deal, their words blurred into meaningless droning. An internal war raged. Should he dive in and help this woman, even at the risk of jeopardizing his prestigious career? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days passed, and he found himself glued to his phone, mapping out the intricate web of Marcus's case. The urgency that gripped Linda, her unwavering love for her son, began to seep into Jason's veins. Yet, each interaction with her deepened the discomfort he felt. The chasm of his own unresolved family issues widened. Could he truly step up while simultaneously turning his back on those who mattered most? As he dug deeper, Jason uncovered unsettling truths, corruption entwined with the very essence of the legal system he had once praised. Each revelation twisted his gut, an insatiable urge to act clawing at his conscience like a wild animal. He could feel a storm brewing just beyond his glamour-filled existence. But as the pressure mounted, so did the stakes of his ambitions. The anxiety of betrayal loomed closer, challenging every relationship he had built. Feeling the uncertainty encircle him like a serpent, Jason stood at the precipice of a decision. The walls were closing in, his heart racing faster with every tick of the clock. Was he willing to risk it all for justice? Did he dare to confront those who had led him to the pinnacle of success? The air thickened with tension as the internal conflict consumed him, leaving only one burning question. Would he walk away from the life he built, or align himself with a fight that could echo through the corridors of justice? The answer slipped further away, a tantalizing mystery that hung heavy in the air, leaving a quivering ache within. Jason leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled under his chin as he replayed the voicemail one more time. Linda's voice was etched in his mind, a haunting reminder of the reality that existed outside his polished office walls. Images of Marcus's fate loomed in his thoughts, a young man overshadowed by a web of lies. He was no longer just an observer to a case. He had become a participant in a life-challenging dilemma. The successes that had filled his ego began to feel tainted. Each accomplishment felt like a stone weighing him down, anchoring him further from the person he once aspired to be. Something had shifted within him, and he needed to confront it before it consumed him completely. Determined, Jason tapped his phone screen, flicking through legal text messages and case files. He immersed himself in criminal law jargon, history books layered in legal precedents, and articles that dissected corruption in the very system he dedicated his life to defending. As he sifted through the data, a burning question clawed at his mind. How could he leverage his resources without alienating the ideals he had built his reputation on? The mental strain forced him to step outside for air. The once vibrant streets of Manhattan felt suffocating. As he walked aimlessly, navigating the dizzying rush of pedestrians and honking cabs, he sensed every person existed within their own battles, some real and some quietly faceless. Faced with this crowded reality, it struck him the solitude of ambition was as dangerous as the darkness of injustice. On his way back, he spotted a cafe, one he frequented during better times, before the accolades dulled his sense of worth. He ordered a coffee and took a seat by the window. As he sat reflecting, it occurred to him his life had become a carefully constructed facade, in stark contrast to the raw and palpable struggles of others, like Linda and her son. He recalled his mother's wisdom, how the real value of success could be measured not in wealth, but in the difference one made in the lives of others. With renewed clarity, his resolve solidified. It was time to confront the professional tendencies that had long dictated his life. He would reach out to Linda, become more than just a voice on the other end of the phone. He had powerful contacts, extensive background knowledge, skills honed over years of hard work. After a brief conversation with her, he discovered near-universal condemnation of the district attorney, who was more interested in his reputation than justice. It was infuriating, etched in the realization that those who betrayed their oath to serve would be the very adversaries he now faced. He had seen worth and unworthiness coalesce, and the battle lines were being drawn as Jason began to map out a strategy, striving to piece together a plan that would not only save Marcus but also reestablish his moral compass. Anticipation surged through him. This was not merely about a case. It was about reclaiming the essence of who he was beneath the successful lawyer facade. The stakes were growing personal and the stakes were real. Yet, the danger loomed larger than he had anticipated as he contemplated the influential people he would need to confront. Dark forces had a way of safeguarding their territory. The time had come to face those who played a dangerous game in the shadows, to challenge a system that twisted good into evil. But amid the resolve, an alarming thought flickered: what if he became the target next? What lay ahead could secure a future filled with purpose or shatter the delicate threads he had woven into the fabric of his life. Each choice carried weight. As he prepared to take the first bold step into the fray, the specter of potential loss lingered close by, whispering warnings he couldn't shake. Would he emerge victorious, or betray the principles he was fighting for? Jason's phone rang, its shrill tones slicing through the fog of his thoughts. It was Linda again. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen, before answering with a calm he didn't feel. The urgency in her voice struck straight to his core, igniting both fear and determination. What followed was a detailed account of her struggles, the depths of despair echoing through the phone line. She spoke of Marcus's plight, trapped in a system that twisted truth into fiction. Each word felt like a beacon. They drew him deeper into the murky waters of a fight he had not anticipated. Jason realized this wasn't just another case for him. It was a chance to redefine himself in the eyes of those who mattered far more than accolades and status. When their conversation ended, Jason felt invigorated yet anxious. The moral clarity was both liberating and daunting. He would face down the district attorney, but the prospect was fraught with peril. The weight of his past decisions loomed, as did the realization that those in power rarely relinquish their hold without a fight. Contemplating his next move, Jason began to format a plan. He put together a list of contacts: investigators, journalists, former prosecutors, resources that could amplify Marcus's voice, resources that he had previously leveraged for his own gain. This time, though, it wasn't about winning in the courtroom. It was about illuminating the truth. As he delved deeper into his network, he discovered uncomfortable truths about the district attorney's dealings. Ties with shady police officials, whispers of coercion, and missed opportunities to file charges against corrupt figures in law enforcement. Each revelation filled him with rage and fortified his resolve. He scheduled a meeting with an old contact, Elena, who had transitioned from practicing law to investigative journalism. They met at a dimly lit bar, the atmosphere thick with the scent of malt and old secrets. As he laid out Marcus's story, he felt a sense of urgency seep into every word. Elena listened, her expression shifting from curiosity to disbelief. "You know this is dangerous, right? The people we're dealing with won't go down without a fight. Are you prepared for that?" The question hung in the air, laden with implications. Could he back down now? He was staring into a reflection of his idealism, yet the enormity of the risks weighed heavily on his conscience. "I've lost sight of what this was all about. It's not just a win. It's about doing the right thing. If we don't stand up against this, who will?" Skepticism flickered in her eyes, but there was respect there too. Together, they began crafting a narrative that could expose everything: the injustices, the corruption, and draw public attention to Marcus's case. With every connection made, there grew an undercurrent of fear. Could he really unravel a system he had dedicated himself to for years? And yet, now that he had tasted purpose, retreat felt like a betrayal of everything he had embraced in their conversations. Days turned into a blur, filled with phone calls and late-night discussions. Jason felt a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. Courage had never come so easily, but neither had he known failure on this grand a scale. As they gathered more evidence, Jason couldn't shake one looming question. Would the risks he was taking jeopardize not only his career but also his life? Right now, it was about Marcus, but the fight felt as if it were drawing the darkest parts of Jason's own soul into the fray. A flicker of movement across the bar caught his eye, a figure cloaked in shadow, watching. The delicate balance he had begun to navigate was being tested, and the stakes continued to escalate. The urge to back away simmered, but he pushed the thought aside. His pursuit of justice had to blaze a trail through fear and doubt. Yet, as the shadowy figure slipped into the crowd, Jason couldn't shake the premonition that his actions were about to make waves far beyond what he anticipated. What awaited him in this desperate battle against faceless foes? What further depths would he have to plunge into remained unknown. But resolve ignited within him, a sense of purpose fueling every step forward. He would face challenges ahead, unearth more truths, and eventually confront the very people who tried to maintain their grip on power. But lurking just beneath the surface was a realization both alarming and empowering. Every move he made would draw them closer to him, threatening more than just his reputation. Would he stand firm against whatever darkness came for him next? Jason woke up the next morning to the sun slanting through the blinds, casting long shadows across his room. The weight from the previous night clung to him like an unwelcome blanket. The encounter with Elena echoed in his mind, her words a sharp reminder of the dangers that lay ahead. He rolled out of bed, determination settling into his bones. Another day meant another opportunity to push forward. After a hasty breakfast, he grabbed his laptop and hit the local coffee shop to map out his strategy. The cafe buzzed with morning patrons, but all he could focus on was the staggering amount of information he had that demanded to be organized. Evidence of corruption, records of overlooked accusations, and the raw narratives of those affected by the system he once believed in. It was enough to challenge the very foundation of what he had fought for in his career. As he typed, inspiration flooded his thoughts. Each keystroke felt like a personal declaration. He set up timelines, charts. "I can do this," he reminded himself. Purpose surged through his veins. As he pieced together the fabric of Marcus's case, he realized that he wasn't just uncovering facts. He was weaving a narrative that could shift perspectives and inspire action. An email notification interrupted his train of thought. It was from Elena, suggesting they meet again sooner. As he read her words, a pang of dread struck him. She mentioned the shadowy figure. "Be cautious," she advised, hinting that the individual had been seen lurking outside her building. An unsettling knot formed in his stomach. How deep had he inadvertently dug into the underbelly of a system that harbored such darkness? It wasn't just about Marcus anymore. It was about self-preservation too. The idea of facing hidden threats was suffocating, yet it stirred an unexpected fire within him. Jason felt a shiver of fear mixed with the tantalizing taste of freedom. After securing his laptop, He decided to visit Marcus in person at the detention center. The drive allowed his thoughts to coalesce, questions developing layers of intensity. Would Marcus understand the risks? Jason was uncertain, but he had to convey his commitment to reversing the injustice. Entering the facility felt the same as stepping back in time-cold walls and harsh fluorescent lighting. It was jarring, a physical reminder of what he was fighting against. As he signed in, he caught sight of his reflection in the security mirror. The man staring back at him was different. The certainty in his eyes felt newfound. During their meeting, he tried to maintain professional detachment, but he could see the raw vulnerability in Marcus's eyes. "You really believe we can win?" the man asked, hope tainted with disbelief. Jason leaned forward, lowering his voice so only Marcus could hear. "I've seen what's out there and we have a chance. But it's going to take everything I have." The weight of those words seemed to resonate in the small room. There was a shift, a connection created by shared purpose. Leaving the facility, Jason felt a lightness he hadn't anticipated. Even though the stakes were soaring, he felt empowered by the responsibility of fighting for someone else's truth. Yet, the specter of the shadowy figure returned. He resolved that this was only the beginning. People were waking up to the truth, and they needed someone willing to face adversity for them as the sun began to set. Painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Jason received a cryptic message on his phone. A single line read, "You're deep in this now. Don't think for a second you can just walk away." His heart raced. The line teetered between a warning and a promise of impending conflict. The time for idle thoughts was over. He could feel the approaching storm. What would be demanded from him next? How much further would he have to go to dismantle the walls built around injustice? With the night creeping in, Jason clenched his fist. He was no longer just a lawyer playing the system. He was becoming something far more complex, something that would either destroy him or forge him anew. As his phone buzzed again, this time with Elena's name flashing across the screen, the decision was clear. He had to move forward. He had to get to the bottom of this shadow. He picked up the phone to answer, knowing full well that the next moment could lead to the confrontation he had been preparing for. What awaited him on the other end could either be his undoing or the key to unlocking a larger truth that had remained hidden for too long. Jason took a deep breath, steadying himself before answering Elena's call. Her voice came through, a mix of urgency and worry that further tightened the knot in his stomach. "Jason, we need to meet now," she said, as if the weight of the world rested on her words. "What has happened?" he asked, trying to mask the rising tension in his voice. "I don't want to discuss it over the phone. Just get here, please." As he ended the call, a churning sense of dread washed over him. He was stepping into the unknown, a place where the stakes had escalated beyond his control. With every junction he turned in his mind, he was faced with the precipice of fear. What did she know? What would they face? Crowned obstacles and dark threats loomed like storm clouds, threatening to swallow him whole. After a quick change into a more professional appeasing attire, he drove the winding streets toward Elena's building. With each traffic light, every red that twinkled in front of him felt like a countdown to confrontation, to revelation, to inevitable change. Upon arriving, he parked hastily and made his way into the building. The muted hum of the lobby was strangely comforting, contrasting sharply with the turmoil brewing inside him. He took the stairs 2 at a time, silently reprimanding himself for waiting this long to face the reality of their situation. Elena was waiting, her hands clasped tightly in front of her as she paced back and forth in the small space of her apartment. She paused when she saw him enter, a frown etching deeper lines across her forehead. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on?" Jason asked, urgency tinging his tone. "Someone's been following me, watching me. I thought it was just my imagination." But then she hesitated, taking a deep breath as if it anchored her resolve. "I found this in my mailbox, addressed only to you." She handed him a letter, aged and yellowed, as if it had been hiding for years in the shadows. The weight of its potential hit him immediately. His instincts screamed it was important. Opening it carefully, he began to read what appeared to be a chronicle of events, detailing a series of accusations, bribes, and a web of deceit tied intricately to Marcus's case. It contained names of people he recognized, people with power. The message was clear. They were being watched, but there was also an inner urgency to expose the truth. This could be the evidence we need, Jason muttered, adrenaline surging through him as he processed the implications. Or it could be bait. Elena's words lingered heavily in the air, and Jason could see the fear glimmering in her eyes. He felt the weight of her concern. Her intuition had always been a guiding force. They were caught in a precarious dance, teetering on the edge of danger without a clear path forward. It demanded strategy and an iron will, pushing him toward a greater personal evolution. The thought of fighting back stirred something deep within him, a determination that had lain dormant for too long. After a moment of silence, he met Elena's gaze, his resolve crystallizing. We need to find out who sent this. We need to confront them. But first, we need a plan. Their discussion shifted from fear to action as they began outlining who to approach, what information to gather, and how to keep each other safe. The notion of confronting the shadowy threats no longer felt just like survival. It was becoming a quest for justice, an opportunity to reclaim his narrative. As they exchanged strategies, Jason felt clearer, his mind sharpening to a point of focus he hadn't known in years. This was more than just a case. It was about reclaiming his sense of purpose. The stakes were higher, and he would either emerge reborn or pay the ultimate price for his involvement. But as darkness enveloped the room and the weight of their decisions settled in, a swift knock on the door sent a shockwave through them both. Jason's heart raced. They were about to confront the very threat lurking in the shadows. As Elena turned towards the sound, a flicker of fear crossed her face, leaving Jason on edge. Who stood before them in this moment of reckoning? He braced himself for the truth lurking just beyond the door. Jason's pulse quickened, the knock reverberating through the small apartment like a gunshot. His mind raced, thinking through their options in fractions of a second. They could either stay silent, hoping their visitor would give up, or confront whoever was on the other side of that door. Whatever laid beyond it was bound to alter the course of their lives. Elena's eyes darted towards him, a mixture of fear and uncertainty reflected in her gaze. Something within Jason unfurled, a glimmer of the man he had been before life's challenges dulled his resilience. He moved towards the door, a presentiment mounting in his chest. Whatever awaited them outside could very well define his future. That he swallowed, the knot in his throat tightening. We need to be ready for anything, he whispered, feeling the gravity of his own conviction. Remember to stay close. Elena nodded, her breathed-out puffs becoming more anxious as he turned the doorknob. It creaked open to reveal a figure half-shrouded in shadow. A tall man stood there, his posture exuding an air of authority mingled with promise. Jason's instincts screamed danger, but something else, authenticity, transferred through the man's intent gaze. "Mr. Langston?" the man asked, his voice deep and laced with urgency. "Who are you?" Jason replied, stepping protectively in front of Elena, a tumult of emotions brewing within him. "They're watching you," the man continued, his face shadowed by the dim light, but his purpose was clear. "And your lives are at stake." Jason glanced at Elena, who seemed paralyzed with a blend of fear and curiosity. Gathering his confidence, he stepped closer to the stranger. "Stop beating around the bush. What do you know?" "More than you realize, Jason," he replied, his tone unnerving yet earnest. "My name is Gabriel. I'm here to help." "Help?" Jason scoffed. "Help how? What do you want from us?" Gabriel shifted slightly, revealing a briefcase tightly clutched in one hand. "I work for someone who believes in your case, and believes in the truth. But if you choose the wrong people to trust with this information," he let the unspoken threat hang in the air. Jason's heart raced. He felt the potency of the moment, a pivot toward action or oblivion. Suspicion battled within him. Yet, the thought of remaining shackled by past failures ignited a spark of hope. "And what makes you think we need your help? Because you're in deeper than you know?" Gabriel retorted, his gaze unwavering. "You and Elena are pawns in a much larger game. But you also have the power to change it." Jason clenched his fists, wrestling with the implications. Did he possess the courage to dive deeper into a web that was already threatening to ensnare them? He glanced at Elena again, her brow furrowed, uncertainty etched across her features. This was a game of chess, and he could either fold or play to win. "We have to take control," he said almost to himself, feeling a change within. "I refuse to be a victim of someone else's play." Gabriel's expression softened, and Jason sensed a shift, a foundation forming beneath their conversation. "Here's the plan. Inside this briefcase is everything you need to protect yourselves, expose those who want to silence you, and turn the tables. What's in it?" Jason's pulse quickened, curiosity overtaking skepticism. As the promise of empowerment loomed ahead, he questioned if he was truly ready to embrace the opportunity, to face both the dark forces that aligned against him and the light that lay ahead. "Evidence, contacts, everything you need to take a stand," Gabriel insisted, unzipping the case slightly to reveal documents and files stacked strategically inside. "But know this, once you accept this path, irrefutable decisions lay ahead. Are you ready to engage in war?" The word war sparked a grim recognition within him. Was he ready for this? The new journey stretched before him, a tumultuous road riddled with peril and potential. Jason locked eyes with Elena, and he could read her desire for action mirrored in his own, tempered by caution. "This is our chance, but we must prepare ourselves for the onslaught ahead." As tension crystallized between them, Gabriel waited, the weight of the moment looming large. Taking a deep breath, Jason reached forward, feeling the weight of destiny clasped in his hands. "Let us do this," he affirmed, as resolution washed over him. With that singular affirmation, the door swung open wider, inviting not just risk but also transformation into their lives. The battle to reclaim their story had begun. But still, an unsettling thought lurked at the back of his mind. How far would they have to go to uncover the secrets hidden in the shadows? The briefcase hovered between them, an unspoken promise and an ominous threat. Jason's fingers tingled with an amalgamation of anticipation and dread as he processed the weight of the moment. Anger simmered beneath the surface. For too long, he had allowed fear to dictate his actions. This new chapter had the potential to rewrite his narrative. But first, he needed to envision what it would mean to seize control. Elena's eyes flared with urgency as she leaned in closer, drawn to the contents of the briefcase. "Jason, we can't just stand here. We need to see what he has." The fire in her voice ignited something within him, the spark of determination that had been dormant for so long. With deliberate steadiness, he opened the case wider, revealing files meticulously organized, a blueprint for their salvation. As he rifled through the documents, titles sprawled across the pages, blurred, beginning with legal jargon to personal testimonies. But one folder caught his attention: Project Dominion. It sent cold shivers down his spine. This is all tied to what's happening to us?" Jason questioned, the words stumbling out of his mouth. As he scanned the pages, the reality shifted from mere threat to undeniable urgency. Each document seemed to resonate, illuminating connections that had eluded him until now. "Remember," Gabriel interjected, his voice somber but firm, "knowledge is power, but wielding it comes with consequences. You must decide what you value more, your safety or the pursuit of truth." Jason held the folder tightly, anxiety gnawing at him. He understood Gabriel's point. Truth could expose sinister forces lurking in the darkness. It was a moral dilemma, one where either choice could compromise their lives. "Why is it up to us?" Elena asked, her voice quavering slightly but tinged with determination. "How are we supposed to stand up against these people?" "Because you're essential," Gabriel replied. "More than mere players in a game, you're pivotal. Forces are at play that transcend your understanding, but you can expose them. However, it requires an unwavering commitment." Jason closed his eyes momentarily, the weight of realization settling heavily on his shoulders. He was sick of being a pawn. He wanted to be the queen, capable of moving in any direction to reclaim his path. But that kind of power didn't come without sacrifice. Commitment, sacrifice. "Can we really do this?" he murmured, his internal conflict raging. He scanned the pile of evidence before him, each page a piece of a larger puzzle that could derail their fears or send them spiraling into catastrophic unknowns. Elena grabbed his hand, grounding him. We can't let them win, Jason. We owe it to ourselves to find the truth and to stand together. Jason nodded, bolstered by her presence. They could no longer exist in the shadows. It was time to step into the light. Then we make a plan. We need to sift through this and connect the dots. If we're going to confront them, we need to know exactly what we're up against. The urgency filled the room as the three of them began poring over files, their coordinated efforts unfolding a narrative they had yet to grasp. Jason felt adrenaline coursing through him, rebirthing his resolve. As layers of deception began to peel back, he realized how much he had underestimated his own ability to confront the darkness. But doubt lingered. Each document they examined, each decision they debated, planted seeds of anxiety. Was he equipped for the battle ahead? The threat felt omnipresent, the stakes rising higher. Are you sure you're ready to take this on? Gabriel's voice broke through, a question lingering between challenge and support. Jason hesitated. Right now, it's about gaining knowledge. What comes next? We're prepared to face them if I can trust the evidence and our instincts. We just have to put our faith in each other. As he spoke, determination saturated his words, but another feeling crept in, a nagging sense of unknown consequence. The plan took shape, albeit shrouded in uncertainty. Jason realized that every move forward risked leading them deeper into the abyss. What if we make ourselves targets? He wondered aloud, an unsettling thought creeping in. Gabriel paused, the weight of the potential ramifications palpable in the air. Targets are better than victims. If you're going to change the game, it starts now. Together, they would sketch a stark new narrative, their desire for truth fueling every calculated step. But as Jason leaned into the demands of the task ahead with the specter of violence looming, the question remained. Would he embrace the fight, or would they become casualties in this ruthless game? And how far was he willing to push himself to reclaim their story before crossing an irreparable line? As Jason and his companions delved deeper into the files, a feeling of empowerment washed over him, intermingled with a rising tide of apprehension. They were scaling a mountain of uncertainties, the documents detailing Project Dominion offering glimpses of a labyrinthine operation from which only shadows emerged to narrate the nefarious design behind it. But within that darkness, Jason felt the glimmer of a new identity forming. Look at this, Elena said, her brow furrowing as she flipped through another folder. This timeline suggests they've been planning this for years. We're not just reacting, we're part of something much larger. Jason's heart raced. The complexity of the situation threatened to overwhelm him, yet it fueled a fierce resolve to rise above his previous passivity. We can't just let them keep pulling the strings, he asserted, determination hardening his words. His voice wavered, uncertainty creeping in, but he pressed on. If this is about us, then we need to expose them before we become their next victims. Gabriel nodded, looking contemplative but worried. You understand the implications, right? This isn't just digging for information. It's a confrontation with forces that don't take kindly to dissent. Jason inhaled sharply, grappling with the gravity of his decision. Was he really ready to challenge a system that had already shown its willingness to manipulate and destroy? Doubt threatened to choke his resolve. We need more than just courage. We need strategy, he said, aware of the tightrope they were walking. As the night dragged on, the flickering glow of the desk lamp illuminated their faces, each reflecting a cocktail of fear, hope, and growing determination. Jason began making notes, sketching connections between events documented in the files and the patterns in the manipulation they had endured. Project Dominion looks like a web of corruption, he muttered as he scribbled, a mixture of chaos theory and detective work weaving itself into clarity. If we can pinpoint specific actions and correlations, we could expose their vulnerabilities. Elena leaned in, intrigued. What were you suggesting? I'm suggesting we create a flowchart, map out their operations. If we truly understand how they're operating, we might be able to preempt their moves, even find direct confrontation points. This isn't just about gathering data. It's about shaping our narrative. There was a momentary pause, the weight of his idea hanging in the air. Jason glanced up at Gabriel, who seemed to be weighing the potential of their newfound direction. Taking this step changes everything, he finally said. Yes, Jason agreed, a sense of purpose solidifying within him. It transforms us from victims into strategists. Just be aware, Gabriel cautioned, his voice steeped in experience. The deeper you dig, the more scrutiny you'll attract. Are you sure you want to shoulder that risk? Jason felt the fire of conviction coursing through him, and for the first time in years, he envisioned his future not as a pawn but as a player. We've already risked so much. What is stopping us now? We'd be abandoning ourselves if we don't pursue this. As he spoke those words, something inside him clicked. It was the first inkling of a transformation crafted through necessity and raw ambition. Jason was learning how to harness fear not as a crippling agent but as fuel for his journey. Elena smiled, her faith fortifying his. Together we can tackle this. Every piece of this puzzle will bring light to the truth. The fragile flicker of hope began to blossom within Jason. Together, they set forth to draft their strategy, each document explored serving as building blocks for this newfound resolve. Yet as his thoughts surged with a mix of ambition and dread, Jason couldn't shake the nagging worry that they had just set into motion a chain of events that would bring them face to face with an enemy far more formidable than anticipated. He allowed himself to wonder, what would the next stage of this battle unveil? Would they find the truth they sought, or would they awaken a force beyond their comprehension? As their discussions intensified, Jason felt the tension thicken, whispering questions of just how profound the consequences of their quest would be as they drew closer to the brink of revelation. The next morning, a heavy silence enveloped Jason as he absorbed the magnitude of the previous night's revelations. He sat alone, the remnants of his half-drunk coffee growing cold as they confronted the anxiety spiraling within him. The documents lay spread before him, an expansive map of impending conflict. Each page felt like both a reminder of their purpose and a warning of the shadows that lurked beyond. Elena joined him, her spirited nature undeterred by the ominous weight in the room. "What's the plan, Jason?" she asked, her gaze steady and expectant. "First, we need to organize everything. I want all their operations cross-referenced by timeline and impact," he replied, the words spilling out with unexpected assertiveness. "Let us build a cohesive narrative that traces back to where it all began." As he spoke, Jason felt the weight of leadership settle onto his shoulders. Each detail he scrutinized sharpened his sense of stake and responsibility. He had longed for direction, and now, in the heart of adversity, he found himself blossoming into a role that was both exhilarating and daunting. Elena rolled her sleeves up and leaned closer to the transcripts. Her enthusiasm fueled his drive, and together, their brainstorming turned into a synergy of thoughts and ideas, a potent blend of determination. For the first time, Jason felt invigorated by the collaborative effort. Gabriel soon joined, his steady presence grounding their frenetic energy. "As you map out their operations, we must also think about how to gather external validation," he cautioned. "Our revelations will carry more weight if we can get credible allies to back us up. Do you have a plan?" Realizing the challenge ahead, Jason hesitated for a fleeting moment. He knew they needed more than just information. Influence was key. The desire to connect with individuals who held stakes in the battle against corruption ignited a spark within him. "What if we reach out to investigative journalists?" he proposed, the notion striking him as an unexpected bridge to their goal. Elena nodded slowly, understanding the complexities involved. "But it's a risky move. We must ensure our story is ironclad. The last thing we need is to be discredited." Jason met her gaze, his resolve unfaltering. "Then we'll work ourselves into a position where our evidence is undeniable. If we commit to uncovering the full extent, they'll have no choice but to listen." The weight of his ambition surged, igniting a sense of purpose as the hours slipped by. They drafted meticulous outlines and checked each detail repetitively, their focus narrowing like a vice. With every piece mapped out, Jason felt his confidence swell. He was no longer the passive bystander caught in the web of Project Dominion. He was stepping into the light as a beacon of resistance. However, lurking at the fringes of his success was a constant gnawing unease. What would they do once they challenged the behemoth? A swell of doubt began to creep in as potential consequences loomed larger. Could they truly withstand the backlash? Would their efforts prove futile against a machine entrenched in power? Just then, a notification illuminated Jason's phone screen, a message from an unfamiliar number. He hesitated but then opened it. The urgency of its contents sent a chill down his spine. "I know about Project Dominion. I can help you, but you need to be ready for the truth." Jason's breath hitched as he felt the burgeoning storm around him intensify. The promise of impending danger and revelations laid before him. Who was this person, and how did they know about Project Dominion? The stakes had just intensified, and with newfound clarity, he kicked his thoughts into high gear. Was he ready for whatever this opportunity could reveal? Would this be their ally, or another trap waiting to ensnare them? With the clock ticking, Jason was about to discover just how deep the rabbit hole went. As daylight seeped into Jason's apartment, clarity washed over him, illuminating the shadows that had cloaked his intentions for far too long. He had been a mere cog in the corrupt machinery of Project Dominion, but now he stood ready to dismantle it piece by piece. A burning desire to reclaim not just Marcus's future, but his own sense of justice propelled him forward. Each document spread across his table now pulsed with purpose, the foundation of a meticulously planned offensive against those who had wronged not just Marcus, but countless others. In the moments following the chilling message, Jason gathered his thoughts, realizing that the urgency of their mission demanded not only action but precision. The message had signified a tragic intersection of risk and opportunity. This was the moment to forge ahead, to confront the darkness hiding within a system meant to protect. "Elena," he called, his voice steady with newfound assurance. "We've got to prepare for every possible outcome. This is more than just about presenting evidence. It's about orchestrating momentum. We need allies, people who can stand with us, fight with us." Elena, still buzzing with energy, nodded. "Absolutely. We can reach out to journalists, activists, the individuals whose credibility can anchor our findings." The atmosphere in the room thickened with purpose. Jason felt a sense of unity enveloping them. It magnified their shared resolve. No longer were they lone warriors, vulnerable amidst a system rigged against them. They were a growing force, a collective imbued with determination and fortified by truth. As the day unfolded, Jason dedicated himself to methodical outreach. Emails fired out to influential journalists who specialized in corruption and justice. He crafted each message carefully, intertwining Marcus's plight with the overarching narrative of deceit that ran through Project Dominion. He felt an energy he had long thought spent coming back to him. It spread through his fingertips, pouring into every keystroke. Hours turned to days, but Jason's commitment never waned. Each reply from a media contact felt like a step closer to ultimate victory. They responded with requests for more details, and each response elevated Jason's spirits, as if the universe itself was affirming their journey. Then came the moment of truth, invitation after invitation to speak at forums, podcasts, and local news stories. Their voices were set to shape a narrative that rippled far beyond their immediate troubles. Yet, beneath this thrill lingered the familiar weight of fear. What if the consequences of their revelations came down heavily on them? Jason could feel the relentless pulse of danger wrapping tighter around them. This wasn't just a race against time. It marked the beginning of a high-stakes game with unseen adversaries. Days later, the air was electric as he stood at a press conference podium, his voice quaking with a mixture of pride and anxiety. The eyes of the media, numerous citizens, and concerned individuals were fixated upon him. "The truth," he proclaimed, "is not simply a noble endeavor, it is a weapon for justice against tyranny. Today, we expose the corruption entrenched in Project Dominion." As the words echoed throughout the room, Jason felt a transmutation. He was now not just a lawyer, but an advocate championing the rights of the oppressed. The narrative of his own life changed, shifting from mere success to a commitment for truth. News of the unveiling spread like wildfire. External pressures escalated, inciting not just excitement but also threats from shadowy corners. Jason's pulse quickened upon receiving a chilling warning. People were not happy about their exposure. Yet, facing danger head-on ignited a clarion call from within him. He realized he had become someone who would no longer back down. Under the surface, ripples of support flourished. Citizens rallied, calls for reform surged, all fueled by the revelations Jason and Elena had unearthed. Multiple investigations were launched, and gradually, the narrative shifted from whispers of corruption to cries for justice. With this newfound recognition came closure. Jason had not just confronted a brutal reality, he had transformed that encounter into a force for positive change. Days later, with the media spotlight intensifying, officials faced public scrutiny, the tide shifting in favor of the truth. Marcus's case became a symbol, illuminating myriad injustices that could no longer remain in the shadows. As Jason stepped out into the daylight, the weight he had long carried dissipated. He could hear laughter in the distance, people celebrating newfound hope and courage as they took up the banner against injustice. Filled with deep satisfaction, Jason recognized the profound growth he had undergone. From a self-focused lawyer to a purposeful agent of change, he had reconciled his past, finding deeper meaning in the sacrifices of his mother and the love that had propelled him from apathy toward action. In the midst of chaos, he stood with solid confidence, knowing he had proven not only to himself but to the world that resolve could conquer well-entrenched evil. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the skyline of New York, Jason smiled, whispering a promise to himself. He would continue this fight for good, this journey toward justice, wherever it may lead. You need to subscribe now to our channel for more inspiring stories of personal transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach others who need to hear these powerful narratives. Don't wait even one more second. Comment your thoughts, predictions, and reactions about this incredible conclusion. And share this video with at least 5 friends who would benefit from our message of resilience and hope.